Obedience is Rwandan Cowardice. Written by Gabriel Ndayishimiye. Chapter 1. Trauma-Informed Obedience. Gratitude is our national identity. If you survived the genocide, you owe Kagame your loyalty. If you were born after it, you owe him your existence. If you question him, you clearly forgot. 1. The psychological foundation of loyalty in Rwanda. In other countries, trauma leads to therapy, to healing groups, to candles, to earnest circles of confession and weeping. How touching. In Rwanda, trauma led to obedience, to marching lines, to polished speeches, to statuesque silence. Perhaps that is more honest. Perhaps that is the future we all deserve. The genocide of 1994, yes, that great massacre of neighbor against neighbor, machete against spine, beyond a humanitarian catastrophe, was a kind of soul collapse, a shattering of everything human beings cling to, the village, the family, the fragile decency between strangers. When the blood dried, there was nothing left but the unbearable weight of memory, the guilty dead and the guiltier living. And into that gaping silence, Big Brother stepped, not as a healer, not as a mourner, as an architect. Paul Kagame did not rise to power. He emerged like a stone from under the riverbed when the water runs out. He stood as the necessary thing, hard, cold, inarguable. Not a man, but a structure, a monument to order. If Rwanda was to survive, it would survive inside his walls. In psychoanalytic terms, but why flatter ourselves with such sterile phrases? Kagame became the superego embodied, a walking conscience, a living camera behind every eye. Not just a ruler, but a principle. You will not fall apart again. Paul Kagame did not invent the royalty of Rwanda. He is not its originator. He is not a new beginning. He is a continuation of something old and rotten, an inheritance passed down like a disease, not a legacy. The idea of a ruler above reproach, of a figure who commands not through consent, but through ritualized fear, has always existed here. Kagame did not create that structure. He simply stepped into it. Long before him, Rwanda was ruled by kings, the Mwami, who understood power not as a burden, but as a birthright. They unified the hills by bending the necks of smaller chiefs. Before that, power was fragmented, small chieftaincies scattered across the land, each lording over cattle, land, and bodies, each bound by lineage and force. The Mwami crushed that disorder into a single hierarchy, not through justice, but through manipulation and myth. They trained the people to bow with dignity, to obey without resentment, to confuse silence with peace. That is the true inheritance of this country, obedience coded in ceremony. The Germans saw this order when they arrived. They admired its efficiency. They understood they did not need to conquer Rwanda. They simply needed to plug into its existing circuits of submission. The Belgians were worse. They fine-tuned the machine. They took what was already structured and weaponized it. They picked favorites. They introduced race science. They turned the kingdom into a bureaucracy of violence. But even then, the heart of the system remained intact. The belief that power belongs to those who can wield it absolutely. Kagame understood this. He saw it not as something to dismantle, but something to refine. He is not a rupture in Rwanda's political history. He is its logical conclusion, a ruler without a rival, a king without ceremony, a man who demands the same loyalty the Mwami once commanded, but through spreadsheets and security cameras instead of drums and spears. He has taken the language of modernity and welded it to the instincts of a feudal state. In Kagame's Rwanda, there is no need for crowns. The fear does the work. The memory of chaos does the work. He does not ask to be loved. He requires something deeper, something older, the submission of a people who believe, whether consciously or not, that power is sacred and permanent. That survival means kneeling. That gratitude is owed not to truth, but to order. And we obey. Not because we are fools, not because we are blind. We obey because we remember what happened when the walls came down. We obey because we are tired. We obey because we do not know what it would mean to live without someone telling us who we are and what we must be. I write this not as a revelation, but as an indictment of myself, of my people, of the entire nation. We are not victims of Kagame. We are collaborators in our own subjugation. We want him to rule us. We want someone to carry the weight of our horror, to make the decisions we are too terrified to face, to silence the questions we are too ashamed to ask. This is not modern governance. This is monarchy without the honesty to name itself. It is a kingdom with Wi-Fi and Instagram filters. We are not citizens. We are subjects pretending not to kneel. And I say this not with pride. I say it because someone has to. I say it because we have confused fear for dignity for too long. Because silence, polished and rehearsed, has become our national anthem. Because if we do not speak now, we will forget we ever had a voice. And when history comes for us, and it will not ask what Kagame did. It will ask why we let him. Loyalty in Rwanda is not a choice. It is a symptom, a survival instinct dressed in national colors. The people love him the way a drowning man loves a plank of wood. Not because it is good, but because it is there. Because to let go would mean sinking into the blackness forever. They love him as they have loved the strong men before him. Question Kagame. Doubt him. Criticize. To even begin such a thought is to hear the machetes again in the back of the skull, to smell the burning homes, to taste the dust rising from mass graves. Doubt is a luxury for people whose memories are still bearable. Thus, Rwanda does not simply enforce gratitude. It choreographs it. It curates mourning. You are permitted to grieve, yes, but only if your grief points, ultimately, to Kagame, to stability, to survival. The horror is allowed to live, but only inside the tight, airless box he provides. The moment grief tries to leave that box, the moment it tries to speak its own chaotic, howling language, it is crushed. In Rwanda, memory is no longer a personal thing. It is a state commodity, rationed out like food in a famine. Even forgiveness has been sterilized and fed back to the people through ceremonies, courts, and slogans. The nation healed itself by burying the wound alive. And we, the outsiders, we, with our theories and our human rights manifestos, we scoff, we shake our heads, we write think pieces. But what would we do, truly, if faced with that abyss? Better structure than madness. Better a dictator than another pile of skulls. Better silence than another 1,000 screaming mothers. Even I, scrawling these bitter lines underground, Must admit, I would cling to Kagame too if I had seen what they saw. That is the final cruelty. Rwandan loyalty is not about love or freedom or pride. It is the loyalty of the traumatized to the prison that saved them from a worse death. A loyalty born not of hope, but of terror. A loyalty that carries the taste of blood, even as it sings the anthem. And so the citizens stay silent. Not because they are cowards, not because they are fools, but because they remember too much. He saved them from madness by building a tighter madness around them.